Picture a quiet, misty day on the Pacific Northwest coast. The waves lazily roll onto a shore littered with smooth stones and weathered driftwood. A 12-year-old girl, walking along a beach in British Columbia, spots something familiar, a blue and white running shoe wedged between the rocks. She moves closer to get a better look, and what she finds inside will forever shatter the peace of this region. Inside the shoe is a human foot, and this was only the beginning. ShadowNotes. Welcome to ShadowNotes, where we investigate the chilling mysteries hidden in the shadows of our world. The date was August 20th, 2007. The girl's discovery made local headlines. The police were baffled, but at first, it could be written off as a tragic, isolated incident. But just 6 days later, on another beach, dozens of miles away, a couple of hikers find another sneaker, a black and white one, and again, with human remains inside. The analysis revealed a grim detail. Both feet were right feet, meaning they belonged to different people. Suddenly, this wasn't an accident anymore. It was a sinister pattern. Over the next year, 5 more feet washed ashore in the Salish Sea, a labyrinth of waterways separating Washington State and the Canadian province of British Columbia. 5 different sizes, different shoes, but all with the same horrifying feature. They were detached from a body. The local communities used to the fog and quiet began to live in fear. The newspapers erupted with theories. The FBI and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were stumped. Something monstrous was happening on the coast. The main question that haunted everyone was, why only the feet? Where were the rest of the bodies? This gave rise to the most terrifying speculations. The first and most obvious theory, whispered in the diners and coastal towns, was that of a serial predator, some monster, a phantom of the coast, leaving behind gruesome trophies. The media even gave him a nickname. Imagine someone stalking victims along deserted highways, luring them from roadside motels, and after committing an unspeakable act, leaving behind just a single shoe-clad foot as a calling card. The absence of other remains made this version even more terrifying. This supposed predator was smart, methodical, and elusive. The second theory was no less horrifying, but far larger in scale. At the bottom of the Salish Sea, in its cold, dark depths, could lie entire shipping containers filled with people, victims of human trafficking, undocumented migrants being smuggled into the US or Canada. A ship could have sunk in a storm, or perhaps the containers were simply dumped to cover their tracks. And now, years later, the ocean was slowly returning what it owed, washing ashore fragments of this underwater mass grave. That thought, it's just paralyzing. There were other theories, each wilder than the last. Some claimed it was the work of drug cartels, dumping the bodies of their enemies into the ocean with weights tied to them. Others, and the police genuinely received these calls, spoke of aliens and ritual sacrifices. One witness, the man who found the 5th foot, suggested in an interview with The Guardian that bodies were being thrown overboard with chains around their ankles, and over time, the foot would just pop off. But the strangest part was that this phenomenon started so suddenly. Before 2007, such discoveries were virtually unheard of. It was as if someone or something began its grim work that very year. The hysteria reached such a fever pitch that grim hoaxes started appearing on the beaches. Pranksters would stuff sneakers with dog paws or chicken bones to fuel the public's fear. The coastline had become a scene from a horror movie, and investigators had zero leads. But then, in the quiet of the labs, far from the panic and conspiracy theories, forensic experts began to notice something critical. On the bones, there were no tool marks, no cuts from a saw, no chops from an axe. The ends of the bones were almost smooth. This discovery was the turning point. It meant the feet weren't being cut off. They were disarticulating naturally. This detail was even stranger than the serial killer theory. How was that even possible? To find the answer, scientists conducted a chilling experiment. Researcher Gail Anderson of Simon Fraser University, working on behalf of the police, submerged pig carcasses, their tissue is the closest to human, into the waters of the Salish Sea. What they witnessed was astonishing. Marine scavengers, crabs, shrimp, and other bottom feeders, immediately descended on the soft tissues. Their favorite delicacy turned out to be the ligaments and cartilage around the joints, especially the ankles. In the cold water, they could strip a body down to the bone in as little as 4 days, neatly separating the feet from the legs. This explained the clean bone edges. Okay, that explains the separation. But why were the feet floating? And why specifically after 2007? The answer wasn't found in criminology, but in shoe technology. Starting in the early 2000s, athletic shoe manufacturers like Nike and Adidas began widely using lightweight foam and air pockets in the soles for cushioning. These shoes, unlike the heavy leather boots of the past, became incredibly buoyant. The running shoe had essentially become a life vest for a foot. Once the scavengers did their work, the foot, protected inside its sneaker, would simply float to the surface. One last question remained. Why here, in the Salish Sea? The answer came from oceanography professor Parker McCready. He created a computer model of the region's currents. It turned out that the unique combination of winds and the complex current system in the Salish Sea acts as a natural trap. Any floating object that enters the water has a high probability of being washed ashore right in this area. And so the picture became clear. There was no serial killer, no sunken containers. There were individual, unrelated tragedies. Forensic experts managed to extract DNA from the remains and cross-reference it with missing persons databases. They successfully identified most of the finds. These were people who had taken their own lives by jumping from bridges, or victims of accidents who had fallen from cliffs or drowned during storms. Their bodies sank to the bottom of the cold sea, where nature took its course, and modern footwear and ocean currents completed the gruesome puzzle. One of the feet, found in an old-style hiking boot, belonged to a man who had been missing since 1985. The mystery was solved, but it brought no relief. The horror of an unknown monster was replaced by a quiet grief for real people. Each discovery on the beach was no longer a clue in a murder mystery, but the epilogue to someone's personal tragedy. The coast that had held 2 nations in fear was not a crime scene, but a final resting place for lost souls. This story began like a classic horror tale, making you fear the shadows. It ended as a stark drama about how science can explain the unexplainable, but can never erase the pain of loss. Which of the original theories seemed most plausible to you? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to keep diving into the world's most tangled and dark stories, subscribe to ShadowNotes. Stay in the shadows.